the smile that disarms empires. There's a particular kind of power that doesn't shout, threaten, or force its way into a room. It glides in with a smile, a well-timed laugh, a softened tone, a tilt of the head, and suddenly, defenses drop. In politics, business, or everyday survival, charm can move people in ways brute force never could. Machiavelli, the Renaissance master of manipulation and realism, would have recognized charm as one of the most subtle and effective weapons in any strategist's arsenal. It's not about beauty or friendliness, it's about control disguised as warmth, persuasion that feels like pleasure. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. But the smartest operators in history have always understood that fear can only go so far. Love, or at least the illusion of it, lasts longer. A smile can mask intent, disarm suspicion, and pull loyalty from those who would otherwise resist. It's not softness, it's strategy, whether it's a ruler winning his court, a CEO steering a boardroom, or an influencer commanding millions of followers. The essence of charm remains the same. It bends people's will without them realizing it's happening. We live in an age where power often looks like politeness, and manipulation looks like empathy. Charm has evolved into one of the most socially acceptable forms of control. This video explores that transformation, how Machiavelli's principles of cunning, perception, and persuasion apply to the modern art of charm. From history's great leaders to today's smooth talkers, the strategic smile remains the quietest form of domination, and the deadliest. 1. The Machiavellian blueprint, persuasion over power. Niccolò Machiavelli's The Prince is often misread as a handbook for tyranny, but at its core, it's about understanding people, their fears, their desires, their weaknesses. Machiavelli never advocated cruelty for cruelty's sake. He believed that effective rulers must appear virtuous, compassionate, and honest, even when they are not. He saw that image and perception were stronger than truth. Charm, in that sense, is Machiavelli's concept of appearance turned into a weapon. A charming leader doesn't conquer through intimidation, but through fascination. Machiavelli would say that charm is the performance of virtue, the ability to seem trustworthy, relatable, and noble, even while acting in self-interest. The prince who can make people feel seen and valued gains loyalty that no sword can buy. A charming ruler can convince others that his ambition serves the common good, when in fact, it serves his own. That's not hypocrisy. It's politics in its purest form. Machiavelli taught that a leader's survival depends not on honesty, but on his ability to manipulate perception. In today's world, this idea plays out in every realm of influence. The charismatic CEO who inspires his team while cutting half their jobs. The politician who promises unity while sowing division behind closed doors. The influencer who packages self-interest as self-care. Each is practicing a modern form of Machiavellian charm, persuasion dressed as empathy. And yet, we rarely resent them for it, because as long as they make us feel good, we forgive the manipulation. The power of charm is that it doesn't just hide deceit, it makes deceit desirable. 2. The psychology of charm, manipulation that feels like love. Charm works because it touches the emotional brain before the rational one ever has a chance to intervene. When someone makes us feel understood, admired, or entertained, our guard drops. We begin to associate their presence with safety and pleasure. That emotional response becomes leverage, a kind of invisible rope they can pull whenever they need compliance or trust. Machiavelli didn't have the language of neuroscience, but he understood this dynamic perfectly. People are governed not by logic, but by emotion. The key to ruling them is not through force, but through effective control, the manipulation of feelings. What makes charm dangerous is that it doesn't feel like manipulation. Unlike intimidation or coercion, it operates through consent. We give our trust willingly, thinking we've made a free choice. This illusion of autonomy is what makes charm so enduring. When someone intimidates you, you remember it. When someone charms you, you defend them. This is why Machiavellian thinkers, from court advisors to modern PR strategists, rely on charm as a more stable form of control. It breeds loyalty that persists even in the face of betrayal. In relationships, workplaces, and politics alike, the same mechanism operates. Charmers create emotional dependency. They make others crave their approval, their smile, their validation. Once that bond forms, they can extract obedience, favors, or forgiveness, almost without asking. The victim feels flattered, not coerced, which makes the control absolute. Charm, then, is not the opposite of power. It is power made invisible, and therefore nearly impossible to resist. 3. The historical masters. Charm in thrones and courts. Charm has always been the secret weapon of those who ruled without the numbers, strength, or armies to back them. Cleopatra didn't just captivate Caesar and Mark Antony with her beauty, she engineered an aura of fascination around herself. Every gesture, every pause, every word was a performance calibrated to disarm. Her charm wasn't romance, it was survival. She ruled through desire, knowing that a man in love is easier to command than a man at war. Machiavelli, had he written of her, would have seen her not as a seductress, but as a strategist who understood the true currency of influence, emotional surrender. Louis XIV of France, the Sun King, mastered a different form of charm. He didn't seduce individuals, he seduced perception itself. Through grand performances, dazzling manners, and calculated benevolence, he turned Versailles into a theatre of power. Courtiers felt lucky just to orbit him. This was charm as spectacle, a manipulation of prestige so refined that it made obedience feel like honor. The courtiers who bowed to him weren't humiliated, they were flattered to participate in his myth. Louis knew that charm, when amplified through ritual and glamour, could make submission seem like privilege. Even in modern politics, charm often decides who wins hearts long before policies are even heard. Think of John F. Kennedy, youthful, eloquent, effortlessly confident. His presidency marked a time when image became policy. Voters didn't just trust his words, they trusted how he made them feel. Young, capable, hopeful. Machiavelli would have recognized Kennedy's smile as a more potent tool than any legislative power. Charisma, to Machiavelli, is the soft glove that hides the iron hand. The ruler who commands affection holds a kind of control that armies can't enforce. 4. The modern arena. Charm in business, media, and digital influence. In the 21st century, charm has gone digital, and Machiavelli would have thrived in it. The modern prince doesn't rule a kingdom, they rule attention. CEOs, influencers, and politicians all compete for emotional loyalty, and they do it through charm calibrated to a pixel-perfect degree. Every Instagram caption, every TED Talk smile, every relatable confession on social media is a carefully engineered signal: trust me, like me, follow me. This is the new court, not in marble halls, but in algorithmic feeds. Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Taylor Swift, all wildly different personalities, but each understands the Machiavellian principle of perception over truth. Musk's mix of humor, risk, and arrogance makes him fascinating, even when his actions spark outrage. Oprah's warmth, vulnerability, and spiritual aura create deep trust. giving her unparalleled influence over millions. Swift's charm blends relatability with authority. She tells fans we're in this together, while controlling her narrative with surgical precision. Each of them manipulates emotion to sustain devotion, a modern performance of power that operates on the same timeless principle: win hearts to rule minds. Charm has also become a professional skill in everyday life. The job interview, the sales pitch, the dating app profile, all revolve around micro-charm, brief, curated bursts of likability. People practice their smiles in the mirror, study body language tutorials, and learn how to build rapport in seconds. What once was instinct has become strategy. And yet, as we refine this art, we also blur the line between authenticity and performance. Are we connecting, or are we competing in a charm economy where sincerity itself becomes another act? Machiavelli would smile knowingly, because for him, sincerity was never the point. Effectiveness was. 5. The ethics of seduction when strategy crosses the line. Charm, for all its grace, carries a moral cost. It manipulates the most intimate part of human experience, emotion, and turns it into a tool. The question then becomes, when does persuasion become exploitation? Machiavelli never asked his readers to be good, he asked them to be effective. Yet modern ethics forces us to confront the aftermath of this power. When charm is used to deceive, to control, or to seduce under false pretenses, it erodes trust, not just between individuals, but within entire societies. We begin to question everyone's motives, even the genuine ones. The dark side of charm shows itself in toxic leadership and narcissistic relationships. The charming manipulator often creates dependency, showering attention one moment, withdrawing it the next, a dance designed to maintain control. Victims of such charm often describe feeling spellbound, aware they're being misled but emotionally unable to break free. It's proof of how charm bypasses logic, it binds through feeling. Machiavelli would argue this is simply the natural hierarchy of power. The strong command through intelligence, and the weak obey through emotion. But modern morality demands more: empathy, transparency, fairness, virtues Machiavelli might have dismissed as luxuries of peace. Still, to condemn charm outright would be hypocritical. The same qualities that make it manipulative also make it magnetic, inspiring, and healing in the right hands. Teachers use charm to inspire learning, therapists use it to build trust, diplomats use it to prevent war. The key lies not in rejecting charm, but in acknowledging its dual nature, both weapon and bridge. Machiavelli might not have valued morality as we define it, but he understood human nature. To wield charm without conscience is dangerous, to understand it without awareness is fatal. 6. Charm as survival, the weapon of the powerless. While charm is often seen as a tool of manipulation for those already in control, history shows it's just as crucial for those without power. For the marginalized, the outsider, or the underdog, charm becomes a form of armor, a way to navigate hostile environments without open confrontation. The servant who pleases the master, the employee who wins favor from the boss, the woman who smiles to diffuse tension. These are not acts of weakness, but of calculation. Charm, in these contexts, is survival disguised as sweetness. Machiavelli wrote for princes, but his insights apply equally to the powerless. When brute force isn't available, perception becomes the only battlefield. The one who can control how others feel, even slightly, gains an edge. This is why charm has historically been associated with groups who couldn't rely on institutional power: women, minorities, subordinates. They learned to read emotion as fluently as Machiavelli read politics. They learned to anticipate moods, to soothe egos, to turn hostility into approval. These skills may not look like domination, but they achieve the same end: influence without authority. Yet there's a painful paradox here. When charm becomes survival, it can also become imprisonment. Many learn early that their safety depends on being liked, that likability is protection. Over time, this constant performance erodes authenticity. The smile stops being strategy and becomes reflex. Machiavelli might applaud the cleverness, but modern psychology sees the cost: exhaustion, self-erasure, and the quiet resentment of always having to play nice to stay safe. Charm, when born from fear, is no longer freedom, it's camouflage. 7. Gender and the politics of likability. Few things reveal the double edge of charm more sharply than gender. For centuries, society has trained women to wield charm as both shield and sword, to influence without threatening, to persuade without confronting, to be powerful but palatable. She's too assertive, and she's not likable enough remain modern echoes of Machiavellian expectations: rule softly, never show the steel beneath the silk. Women in leadership roles still walk the impossible line between warmth and authority, a balance men are rarely forced to consider. Charm for women has often been the socially sanctioned route to influence. In eras when intellect, wealth, or command were restricted, charm became the one acceptable form of power, and a dangerous one at that. The femme fatale of literature, the first lady of politics, the charismatic executive, each embodies a mastery of emotional strategy that mirrors Machiavelli's prince, yet pays a higher price. When women use charm effectively, they're praised as graceful. When they use it too well, they're branded manipulative. This double standard reveals how deeply society fears the combination of femininity and strategic intelligence. Men, on the other hand, are rewarded for charm without suspicion. The charming man is seen as confident, dynamic, persuasive, a natural leader. The same qualities that make a woman calculating make a man charismatic. Machiavelli himself might not have predicted this gender divide, but his principles of perception explain it perfectly. People judge charm not by what it is, but by who wields it. Power changes the moral lens. The prince may deceive to rule, the princess must smile to survive. 8. Charm fatigue, when the smile stops working. In an age where everyone is performing, charm has begun to lose its magic. The world has become saturated with likability, curated personalities, influencer authenticity, endless smiles for cameras and screens. Audiences are growing skeptical. We crave honesty, but we don't trust it when we see it. This is charm fatigue, the exhaustion that comes from being endlessly persuaded. Machiavelli warned that appearance must align with necessity. When every appearance becomes performance, the illusion collapses. Politicians once won votes with charisma, now, charisma alone triggers cynicism. Consumers once followed brands for their friendly tone, now, friendliness reads as marketing. Even in relationships, the polished charm of dating culture, the witty texts, the crafted profiles, feels less seductive and more rehearsed. The strategic smile has become too visible, too studied. The audience sees the strings, and once charm becomes predictable, it loses its edge. In this environment, authenticity, or the appearance of authenticity, has replaced charm as the new strategy. Ironically, this is just the next evolution of Machiavellian adaptation. The modern prince no longer hides behind a smile, he hides behind vulnerability. The influencer crying on camera, the CEO opening up about failure, the politician sharing personal struggles, all understand the same timeless truth: emotions can be weaponized just as easily as charm. The tools change, but the game remains. Conclusion: the future of strategic empathy. Charm, at its core, is the art of emotional intelligence turned toward purpose. It is neither good nor evil, only powerful. Machiavelli taught that the measure of a strategy lies in its outcome, not its virtue. Yet 5 centuries later, we stand at a crossroads where charm can no longer be understood purely as manipulation. In a world fractured by mistrust and isolation, the ability to connect, genuinely or strategically, might be the last bridge left between influence and chaos. The question is no longer whether charm is dangerous, but whether we can afford to live without it. The strategic smile, when used consciously, becomes empathy with direction, the power to move people not through deceit, but through understanding. True mastery of charm, in the Machiavellian sense, is not about pretending to care, it's about knowing how much caring changes perception. The leader who understands emotion isn't weak, they're prepared, but they must also recognize that in the long run, manipulation without meaning collapses. The most enduring power is the one that convinces others to want to follow you. So yes, charm remains a weapon. Quiet, elegant, devastating. It can conquer rooms and reshape destinies. But it's also a mirror, revealing the fragile psychology of those who yield to it. Machiavelli might say the wise ruler learns to use both fear and love. In our time, perhaps the new wisdom is learning when to stop performing, when to smile not as a mask but as a choice, because the most strategic smile of all is the one that knows exactly what it's capable of, and when to put the weapon down.